Okay, so I think we're getting started. This is my first attempt to test out YouTube Live, this streaming technology. And I just want to see, I'm going to attempt to share this on Facebook and see if I can maybe find a person or two who will come on and help me test this out. So I'm sorry, give me a moment here. Trying to orient to all of this stuff um, to see if I can send this. Da 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 da. Somewhere I know there must be. Here's a link to share. I know no one is watching me now, but this is for the recording. Sorry, guys. Okay, I am posting it now, and let's see what happens. Okay, so while I wait and see if anybody comes along, oh, maybe there's someone here watching. If you are here and you can see this, please be so kind as to type something into the chat so that I know that you are here and that you can hear and see. Um, so the whole idea of this Foundations of Healing series is that after a really incredible 6 months of my life where I pretty much feel like I got taken apart thoroughly and put back together in a whole new configuration. I was thinking a lot about the early days of Psyche and Soma, which is my herbal medicine practice. And, you know, in those early days, we found a couple of really cool formats and ways to connect with each other. One of which was a podcast that introduced me to some really incredible human beings who are still in my world today, some of whom are clients and some of whom have come in and out of my life in other ways. And that was a really big part of the beginning of this work. And then, I taught quite a few online courses back in those days too. And, it was 2013, 2014. It was before everybody was totally burned out on Facebook and, all of this kind of stuff. I think now it can really feel onerous to try to, interact in a bunch of Facebook groups and all this sort of thing. But back then, there was this vibrant, connected sense of community that gathered around learning about herbal medicine and self-care and all of this kind of stuff, both through the podcast and then also in some of these private courses. And as I came back together and felt like a human again and felt like myself again a little bit, I realized that I want to have that part of Psyche and Soma come back to life too. For the last maybe 2 years, I have really been pretty exclusively working with people one-on-one, which I absolutely love and I'm very, very happy and grateful to be able to do. But there is this kind of missing piece of the group dynamic. But, I was kind of burned out on the idea of I don't really want to launch a whole other course and price it and all this kind of thing. And I don't want to do a podcast again. It feels like going back instead of going forward. So what emerged is this tea and teaching series. And I'm holding it really loosely right now. This might be a long-lasting fixture of Psyche and Soma for quite some time, or it might be something that we try and we do this over the next 3 months and then we feel complete and then something else emerges in the future. I'm really pleased either way. It will be great. But my intention is we're going to really dive in and do this right for the next 3 months. And the inspiration is from time to time, people ask me for book recommendations for, what should I read to get started with herbal medicine? Where should I turn to get the basics in place to be able to use this tool more in a do-it-yourself kind of a fashion if they're not necessarily looking for help with a particular, condition or something. And I always struggle when I get this question because there are so many terrific books out there, really terrific books. And yet, sorry, I'm turning off my phone in case anyone calls me. And yet, even though there are so many great books and so many great teachers from multiple traditions and perspectives, there isn't one place that I could send you to give you the step-by-step orientation, background, and way of thinking about herbal medicine that I feel is central to the way that I work. And this is not to privilege my perspective over that of all the other herbalists and teachers out there. It's simply to say that when people are asking me for a recommendation, I make the assumption that it's because they want sort of my style or my approach, and that there wasn't a sort of beginner reference that I could send people to that encapsulates that. So I thought it was time that I create one. And that is what we are going to do with the Foundations of Herbal Medicine series. And it's we're laying it out in sort of 3 months. I'm just checking on Facebook to see if anyone is telling me that they're trying to watch this stream. Nobody is. So I don't know. I hope this is working. So anyway, we're gonna go kind of each month is gonna have a theme, and then each session within the month will be dedicated to a specific topic that reflects that theme. And we're going to go really step by step. And, assuming that the technology works, the idea is we'll have the opportunity to be together live and for you to ask questions and we can chat. And there can be sort of that sense of gathering around the campfire. And YouTube will upload these videos and archive them, make them available so that if you can't come live, you can still watch all of the classes. It will still be available. You can go back and reference something if you want to hear it a second time. So, in theory, this is going to work great as long as we can get the technology on our side. So the 3 months are going to work as follows. So this month, April, we're laying the groundwork, and we're going to really start with the foundational stuff that I think you have to have, as your orientation before you start learning about specific herbs or even exploring specific traditions within herbal medicine. So I think of it as kind of like laying out the playing field and understanding where we are, getting a map of where we are so that we can move safely and effectively within that. And tomorrow, April 4th, we're starting with our first class is on the nature of poisons. And I'm really excited for this class, you guys. I think a very important part of the way that I work is that we cannot ignore the dark side. the scary side, the dangers, or, we cannot gloss over any of that stuff if we want to have safety and light and love and gloriousness. We have to engage also with the dark. And generally, when you are first, learning even just to go on a walk in the woods, the first thing you've got to know is how to spot poison ivy. And if you're collecting mushrooms, the first thing you've got to know is how to spot a death cap. So in that same vein, we are going to start tomorrow with thinking about the nature of poison. And when I use that term, I'm not just talking about toxic compounds that are lurking in your food or, in specific plants. I'm also talking about the kinds of poisons that are within us, within our thinking, within our desires, our hidden motives. I use it. I like to link the physical and the metaphorical and the psychic in everything that I do. So we're going to be doing that tomorrow with poisons. It's going to be really awesome and fun. And then the following week, on the 11th, we're going to talk about the nature of medicine. Similarly, talking about all of the sources of medicine, including the sources that are within you. And then on April 19th, we're going to talk about the fact that herbs exist in kind of multiple frames of reference. We can talk about their energetics, as most traditional practices talk about herbs in terms of, is it warming or cooling? Does it ascend or descend? Is it drying or moistening? So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the biochemical realities. If you read an article, you're most likely to hear something like, curcumin from turmeric has been found to do blank, in which the scientific paradigm has been applied, and we're sort of separating out the quote-unquote active principles of each plant. And we're going to talk about kind of that biochemical perspective and how herbs work in that way. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the spiritual side of working with plants and why it feels different to work with herbs than it feels to work with pharmaceutical drugs. And, when I use the word different, I don't mean better. I truly mean different. There is absolutely a place for all of these tools in the healing work that's needed today in the world. So we're not going to do any Western medicine bashing during this series. And then the last piece for this framework, groundwork that we're going to take care of in April, we're going to talk about placebo, magic, and questions of ethics. And I'm really excited for this class too, because, so often this notion of, well, it's just a placebo, really comes up all the time. And then sometimes sort of magical seeming things happen as you're walking the path of the herbs. And how do we account for that? How do we talk about it? How do we make sense of it without losing our grounding? Or do we make sense of it? And then we have to dig in a little bit to ethics, because this is one of the poisons, one of the protections from poison that are so important. And we have to talk about what it means to work with plants ethically, whether you're taking care of yourself and your family, or you are a practitioner who's working with the public. And then maybe also a few words about how to assess somebody's ethics who you are considering working with or trusting with your health. I won't do all of these in great depth for every single class, but then once we complete that groundwork, then in May, we're going to do a month about boundaries, and I'm calling it a guide to the rules and how to choose them, or how the rules choose you. So this May is going to be all about how are you going to choose the parameters that you work within? And we're going to talk about 3 of the world's great herbal traditions, each with a separate class. Chinese herbal medicine, which is the tradition in which I primarily practice. Ayurveda, which is the tradition that comes from Southeast Asia, from India. And Western herbal medicine, which I think is actually the hardest tradition to talk about for reasons that we'll go into during that class. And then in June, we are going to address the wounded healer in all of us. And as we work with this wounded healer archetype, this is probably the most important part of anything that I could teach you in a foundational course about herbal medicine, even though it really doesn't have anything to do with individual plants per se. And that's because whether you're working with your own healing journey, and especially when you dare to do this work with and for other humans or animals, the nature of it is that your wounds and your gifts are always going to be dancing with each other. And you cannot enter a healing encounter without risking opening wounds that are present for you, and also discovering and being asked and called upon to offer your gifts in a much bigger way in the world. So it's going to be June is going to be a good month. It's all going to be good. But that's the basic plan of what we're up to. And I'm very hopeful that this series will be a resource for you and for our whole community for many months and maybe even years to come, that we can create something here that will be really special and useful. And I would love to hear your feedback all along the way so that I can adjust and tweak and tailor this. And maybe if it really is a smashing success and it feels great to everybody and it's valuable, then maybe we'll be super cool and we'll do like a season 2 of tea and teaching in the future. But in order for that to happen, I definitely will need to know, if you like it, what you like, if you don't like it, what you want to be different, and we'll be able to go from there. So I'm just going to check and see if anything is happening over here. I see one person watching, but I haven't heard from them, so I don't really know if it's working. So we will have to see. I don't know. This is very nerve-wracking, you guys. Okay, well, this is really all that I have to say. So if you want to check out now, please do just turn off this video. I'm going to stay on just for testing purposes and see if I can get a friend of mine to hop on here and just let me know if everything's working. But thank you so much for watching this little intro, and I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Oh yeah, class tomorrow night. Poisons is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. in France, I understand. So, orient yourselves however you need to. And if you can't be here live, it's perfectly fine. I think we're going to be able to make this, work for people who want to watch afterward. Okay, so I'm looking forward to it, and forgive me now for being super boring while I test out this technology. Okay, somebody was commenting on Facebook and now you went away. So if you're there, please let me know. It would be super helpful. While I try to bother my other friend during the middle of her workday, see if she can test. Okay. Thanks, you guys. I'm trying to figure out how to make the video come on, but you totally do not have to sit here and hang out and wait for me to figure this out. It was very helpful to just know that it was audible but not visible. I appreciate it so much.